In the heart of Southeast Asia, where the waters of the South China Sea stretch far and wide, lies one of the most disputed regions on Earth. Rich in resources, strategic in location, and fiercely contested by multiple nations. Among the key players in this geopolitical chessboard is the Philippines. When Ferdinand Marcos took office in 1965, the Philippines was navigating a complex web of territorial claims and regional politics. Over the next 2 decades, Marcos would use a combination of military strength, diplomacy, and legislation to assert the country's claims over the South China Sea and beyond. One of the most significant territorial concerns during the Marcos era was the Spratly Islands, a collection of small islands, reefs, and atolls scattered across the South China Sea. While these islands seemed insignificant to the untrained eye, they held immense strategic value. Underneath their waters lay vast, untapped reserves of oil and natural gas. Whoever controlled the Spratlys could potentially control a portion of the region's energy future. Multiple countries, including China, Vietnam, Malaysia, and Taiwan, had laid claim to parts of the Spratly Islands. But in 1978, Marcos took a bold step to secure the Philippines' stake. He issued Presidential Decree No. 1596, declaring the Kalayaan Group, a portion of the Spratlys, as part of Philippine territory. With this decree, Marcos not only made a formal legal claim, but also took practical steps to reinforce it. Filipino soldiers were deployed to the islands, establishing a military presence in the Kalayaan Group. These garrisons were small, often no more than a handful of troops stationed on rocky outcrops, but their presence was a clear statement to the international community. These islands belong to the Philippines. For Marcos, the Kalayaan Islands were more than just barren outposts. They were a symbol of sovereignty and national pride. By raising the Philippine flag in the Spratlys, he was asserting the country's right to defend its territorial integrity. But Marcos knew that military force alone would not be enough. Marcos also understood the value of diplomacy. As tensions over the South China Sea grew, he engaged in diplomatic talks with other claimants, particularly Vietnam and China. He sought to balance the Philippines' national interests with the broader goal of maintaining regional stability. The formation of ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, in 1967, provided Marcos with a platform to promote peace and cooperation in the region. Although ASEAN did not directly address territorial disputes, its principles of non-interference and peaceful settlement of disputes guided Marcos's approach to the Spratlys and other contested areas. But Marcos's strategy was not solely based on regional diplomacy. The Philippines' close relationship with the United States played a crucial role in bolstering the country's territorial claims. Under the Philippine-U.S. Mutual Defense Treaty, signed in 1951, the U.S. was committed to defending the Philippines in the event of external aggression. The U.S. presence in military bases such as Clark Air Base and Subic Naval Base acted as a deterrent to any nation considering aggressive moves in the South China Sea. While the U.S. did not take an active role in the Spratly Islands dispute, its strategic importance to the Philippines was clear. Marcos counted on this alliance as a safety net. While Marcos was focused on the Spratlys, another territorial issue loomed on the horizon: Sabah. This fertile land on the island of Borneo had long been claimed by the Philippines based on historical agreements between the Sultanate of Sulu and the British North Borneo Company. In 1968, a covert Philippine plan known as Operation Merdeka sought to train Filipino Muslims to reclaim Sabah by force. However, the plan came to a disastrous end with the Jabida massacre, where the trainees were reportedly killed by their military handlers. The massacre shocked the nation and strained relations with Malaysia. Although the Philippines maintained its claim to Sabah, Marcos recognized that a military solution was no longer viable. He turned to diplomacy, focusing on building ties within ASEAN and keeping the Sabah issue on the back burner. While Marcos avoided direct conflict, his administration laid the groundwork for future Philippine claims, particularly in the Spratlys. In the decades that followed, these disputes would become increasingly contentious as other claimant nations, most notably China, began to assert their own dominance in the South China Sea. Today, the Philippines continues to assert its sovereignty in these waters, facing challenges from larger, more powerful nations. But the foundation of the country's modern territorial policy can be traced back to the bold moves made by Ferdinand Marcos. For Marcos, the defense of the nation's territorial waters was not merely about securing land or resources. It was about national pride, sovereignty, and identity. While his tenure is often remembered for its political controversies and authoritarianism, his actions in defending Philippine territory remain a significant part of his legacy.